So I did a video a few weeks ago scathing the Whoop 5.0, and that video blew up a little bit. It got a lot of comments, a lot of opinions, a lot of people agreeing with what I was saying in the video. However, I still want to review the Whoop 5.0 because I have it. I want to compare it with the Apple Watch because that is probably the most asked question I get. How do you compare the Whoop 5.0 to an Apple Watch, and which one would you choose? I'm going to be covering the Whoop 5.0 more than the Apple Watch because I think most people know what the Apple Watch is like anyway. I also want to make it completely clear that I have bought and paid for both of these devices. They have not been sent to me by anyone. They have not been sponsored or anything. I've actually paid for them with my own money. So first up is the design. I specifically have the 42mm Apple Watch Series 10 in the slate titanium with the slate titanium link bracelet. This is quite a pricey combination, but I do love the way it looks. The Whoop that I have here is the Whoop 5.0. There is also the MG, but the features in that one weren't something I was specifically interested in, so I stuck with the standard Whoop 5.0. The Whoop alongside the Apple Watch is noticeably smaller in width and height, but the Whoop is also thicker, almost by 1mm. I would have actually preferred if the Whoop was thinner, even if it means a smaller battery. Of course, one of the biggest differences between the two devices is the screen. There is no screen on the Whoop at all. Because of that, I actually see them as quite separate devices. I don't necessarily think they're really competing against each other. I see the Apple Watch as an extension of my iPhone with some health tracking features chucked in, and I see the Whoop as a dedicated health tracker. It puts measuring health data above everything else. Because I have the slate titanium Apple Watch with the link bracelet, I think aesthetically, the Apple Watch looks nicer here and it just feels like a more premium device. You can get leather straps for the Whoop as well, which to be fair, it does actually make it look more premium, but they are quite pricey. And that's another thing with the Whoop 5.0 if you have the Whoop 4.0, because the dimensions are different. The older straps, if you have a Whoop 4.0, they are not going to work on this new one. The old battery pack also won't work. You need all new straps and an all new battery. A battery pack is included when you buy the Whoop 5.0, but yeah, don't expect any of the older straps and stuff to work, which I thought was quite disappointing because I built up a collection of straps and I know a lot of other people have, and knowing that you have to buy them again, yeah, it's quite a waste of money really. When it comes to comfort, on the wrist, I find both equally comfortable right now, that is, because when I first got the Whoop in 2023, I didn't used to wear anything on this arm. So I found the Whoop actually quite tight, quite uncomfortable for the first few weeks, but now, a couple of years later, yeah, I find it completely comfortable. I have found though that because the Whoop is thicker and the side edges aren't rounded like the Apple Watch, it can catch on long sleeve clothing quite often. So if you're wearing a shirt or a long sleeve top, like a sweater or a jumper or something, it can catch quite often. And it's a very minor thing. I feel like it's something that most people won't even notice at first. But just because the edges are quite sharp compared to the roundedness of the Apple Watch, the sleeve can just get stuck in it. But the one benefit of the Whoop is that you don't have to wear it on your wrist. They do have clothing and other accessories where you can have it sort of around your arm, around your bicep. You can have it in underwear as well. So you don't necessarily have to wear it on your wrist. When it comes to battery life, the Whoop 5.0, wow. The battery life on this compared to the Whoop 4.0 is incredible. Like, they're saying up to 14 days of battery life, and yeah, I'm getting that quite easily. And I don't even think about battery life anymore. I usually just wait till the notification comes up saying that it's low on battery, and usually that notification comes up when it hits 20%. And when you have 20% of battery, that's still a couple of days of battery life left. So there isn't this sense of urgency where I feel like I need to plug it in. Obviously, that is not the case with the Apple Watch. I can probably get 2 days of battery life out of this, but out of habit, I just sort of put it on the charger every night like I do with my iPhone. Now, one of the most common questions I get is how accurate is the data? How much more accurate is the Whoop compared to something like an Apple Watch? So I have some information here. Central Queensland University carried out a few tests and found that the Whoop was more accurate than the Apple Watch. I have a chart here comparing the data between the two. You can see the heart rate is more accurate, HRV more accurate, sleep tracking more accurate, battery life obviously better, no display, and obviously this is focused on fitness and recovery. And I suspect the main reason the Whoop is more accurate is because there is one key feature with the Whoop that the Apple Watch does not have, and that is continuous 24/7 tracking. It does not stop tracking. The Apple Watch isn't measuring as much, mainly because, of course, if the Apple Watch was measuring that much, it would probably kill the battery life even more. However, that doesn't mean the Apple Watch is bad. If anything, it's actually really, really close. Both of the devices are really close. The Whoop is just a little bit better. I think it's close enough that for most people, it's just not going to make too much of a difference. Not unless you're really sort of specifically looking for continuous tracking with the Whoop. When it comes to workout tracking, the Whoop definitely is, for me, superior. I found that the Apple Watch just overestimates how many calories I'm burning. Heart rate is pretty much exactly the same. I feel like I'm not having any issues there because obviously when you enable a workout on the Apple Watch, it starts tracking your heart rate throughout the workout. So yeah, heart rate there isn't much of a difference there when it comes to workouts. It's just the calories burnt. I've definitely found that the Apple Watch just overestimates by way too much, sometimes double, which doesn't make any sense. I'm not sure how it's calculating it or why it's doing it. The Whoop I've just found is a lot more accurate when it comes to that sort of thing. So when I do a workout, I use the Apple Watch to activate the workout, and then that feeds it into the Health app. The Health app obviously shows that I've had a workout, and it can then sync with the Whoop, and then the Whoop can see that I've had a workout. It will take the data from the Whoop, put it into the health tracking app, and then it sort of combines the information together. And then that data sort of just spreads. So it goes to my Whoop app, it goes to my Health app, it goes to my Apple Watch, so I can see it everywhere. And what I found is that it prioritizes the data from the Whoop over the Apple Watch, purely just because it's more accurate. So because this doesn't have a screen, obviously I don't want to go into the app and enable a workout, a track a workout. I want to be able to just do it from my Apple Watch. So I usually wear both when I'm working out. Like I said, I enable the workout on here, goes to the Health app, then it goes to my Whoop, and the Whoop can see that I've done a workout. It sees that sort of time. It sort of gets that data, puts it into the Health app, and then it shows up on my watch or my phone. And I can see the calorie ticker actually change because it's got the data from the Whoop, because it's more accurate. So there's two main reasons as to why I wear the Whoop and why I have continued paying the subscription. And that is recovery and strain. The strain indicator tells you how much strain and stress your body is going through. It includes the workouts you do, but also the rest of the day. It can detect parts of your day where you're under strain and stress that isn't specifically a workout. I've had mine measure quite random things like when I've taken my car on the track, which can be quite stressful, or even just putting furniture together where my body's under strain, sort of moving things around. It's pretty interesting to see my stress and strain indicator sort of go up when I'm doing those sorts of things. The recovery indicator is a percentage, so it shows how much your body is ready for the day. It resets every day and appears after you wake up, as it takes into account the strain from the previous day and your sleep performance. It categorizes it in red, yellow, and green, so you know how well rested your body is. They both work together to tell you how much you can put your body through. The strain indicator has a little white line. This is basically a target of how much strain you can put your body under for the day. You don't have to hit it, so you can be under, but you can also go over. And if you go over, it might mean that you need to rest and recover a bit more for the next day. A very powerful feature with strain and recovery is the ability to detect an illness before you even show external symptoms. So there have been times where my resting heart rate and my respiratory rate has gone up without really me realizing, because I feel fine, I'm not even noticing it. But my Whoop can actually show me that they're going up and that I might actually have an illness coming on. And then lo and behold, the next day I have some sort of fever or a cough or something. And it's nice to see that the Whoop is sort of telling me that in advance, telling me that, hey, something is not right. You need to rest, you need to recover, you need to take it easy so that you can get better. So when it comes to the app experience, there is a dedicated app for the Apple Watch, but it's not really to see your data or anything, it's to sort of manage your Apple Watch. However, the Whoop has a dedicated app because of course that's the main way to interact with the device. There is no screen or anything. And I think this is where the Whoop really sort of, the subscription comes into play. This is what makes the Whoop very, very powerful and why a lot of people pay for it, because you're not really necessarily paying just for the device, you're also paying for the software and the experience that comes with it. So I have the app here in front of me, and when you first load it up, you can see your sleep recovery and strain, and you can see my sleep 75%, so it's been okay. My recovery 66%, not so great, mainly because I was out last night. I actually went to the Beyonce concert, which is super random, but yeah, my recovery is 66%. And then my strain is currently at 6.5 because I can see I did a weightlifting workout earlier this morning. And this is what you see. And this is what I feel like makes the app experience really good, where you can see all of this information at a glance. You can see how much you can push yourself for the day. You can see your recovery for the day. I can also see my health monitor. I have all within range. My stress monitor is currently medium. If I tap on that, you can see my stress throughout the day. So you can see the stress from actually last night when I was out at the Beyonce concert, you know, listening to music, whatever, and then you can see my sleep. My sleep is not perfect. Where you can see the sleep, that should actually be a flat line as much as possible. But but it's not because obviously I didn't have the perfect sleep. And then you can see my workout, how much I pushed myself at my workout. Not the best workout today, but it is what it is. And then as we scroll down, we can see some other information about my stress for the day. And then if we scroll down throughout the app itself, we can see more information. We can see the steps, calories, hours of sleep, average heart rate, all that sort of stuff. Again, another graph of my stress monitor, strain and recovery. You can go into each of these further. So with the strain and recovery, for example, I can see what it all means basically. They have explanations, information for everything. And like I said, this is what really makes the app powerful, because you just won't get this experience with the Apple Watch. I know there are some apps that try to imitate this with the Apple Watch, but they're just not going to be as good because the Apple Watch isn't tracking your information constantly. And then there is a new feature when you go over to the health tab, it shows you your Whoop age. So I feel like this is a bit gimmicky, but it's also pretty interesting because it takes the data, your health, and sort of gives you an age of what your body is basically. So you can see my Whoop age is currently 29.7. So I'm 2.6 years younger than my actual age, according to Whoop. Like I said, I feel like you shouldn't take this as like it's written in stone. This is exactly like, it's just one of those things where it's nice to see. And then as you go on it, you can actually see what affects your Whoop age. So you can see my sleep consistency helps a lot. My hours of sleep does not. My strain helps a lot, my strength activity, but my steps, I don't get that many steps because of the type of job I do. I just don't get as many steps as you should really. There's just a ton of other information, and I can also see the sort of trend of it as well, and I can see that it's slowly going down as I'm getting more and more in shape, especially over the last few months, because in the last few months I've sort of upped my activity level, and my diet has become a lot better because obviously of the summer and stuff. I want to get in shape, I want to lose a little bit of weight, so that helps with the sort of Whoop age. I have seen some people with a Whoop age that is 10 years younger than they actually are, which is wild because they must be in incredible shape. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it kind of just makes you feel good, right? If you see your Whoop age is younger than you are. But I can also see it going the other way. Hopefully for most people it gives them motivation, but I can see it going the other way, being like it shows you older than you are, which can, you know, have, I don't want to say it can affect your mental health, but I can see where some people kind of get really obsessive and they have sort of health anxiety. And I think if you get to that sort of level, then you probably shouldn't be using this sort of thing anyway. All of this information is also synced with the Apple Health app. So if you have any other apps that you want to use, any other health apps and stuff, they can take this data and use it. So it's really nice to see that Whoop actually give you that option. And like I said, I think the value proposition is here. The device and stuff, yeah, you pay for the device, but the device is not actually, there's not much to it really. It's just a device that sits on your wrist. The software, the app experience, all of the data, managing the data and giving you information, giving you data about yourself, that is what makes it worth it. So one of the main reasons as to why I like to keep an eye on my health is because of my cancer. So if you guys are new to the channel, I know there are a lot of you that are, I was diagnosed with cancer in 2020. Went through chemotherapy, went through surgery and everything. I'm in remission now and have been for like 4 and a bit years. It'll be 5 years this year, and hopefully once I get that all clear after 5 years, you know, it's never coming back. Naturally, when you go through something like that, you're going to be a lot more sort of serious about your health and sort of taking care of your body. And it's why I like to wear the Whoop. Now, that doesn't mean that I am absolutely health obsessed and I'm just like a health fanatic. Someone like Brian Johnson. Now, I completely respect what Brian Johnson is doing. I actually think he's a very interesting guy in the space, the stuff he's doing with himself and sort of the experiments and stuff. I'm glad he's doing that because he has the money to do it and it doesn't have to be some sort of like guinea pig or whatever. He's basically turned himself into a guinea pig, and I respect that. I have a lot of respect for it. But I like to live a little, you know, I still like to eat junk food now and then. I don't want to be on a strict sleep schedule and stuff. I still want to have some freedom in my life, but that doesn't mean I want to be unfit and overweight. So having something like the Whoop for me personally, it just helps me track my information better, helps me see if I'm actually making any progress or if I'm not. That sort of information for me can be quite valuable, and it's why I have it, why I paid for it. Obviously I still have a year left on my subscription. Whether I'll renew it after that, I'm not sure, because like I said, I'm hoping there's more competition. I'm hoping there's other devices out there that can compete with the Whoop and sort of do what the Whoop can do. As technology gets more and more advanced, you know, these sorts of devices are going to get smaller and thinner and last longer and give you even more information. But with my cancer and stuff, I just want to be able to track more information about myself and make sure that I'm on the right track, basically. When it comes to competition, I actually don't think the Whoop is trying to compete with the Apple Watch. They're sort of carving their own position in the market, and this is why I feel like it's becoming more and more popular, why I'm seeing more and more people wear them. Whoop is primarily for those who want to take health tracking to a level beyond what the Apple Watch can do, and the Apple Watch does have health tracking functionality, and most of it is amazing. But like I said, I see it as more of an extension of your iPhone. As a device itself, I just feel like the Apple Watch is a lot more useful. There's a lot more you can do with it. You can see information at a glance, you can see notifications, I can see things like the weather without having to get my iPhone out. I can answer calls, I can do maps and GPS tracking, just a lot more stuff with it that you can't do with the Whoop. So even though this is a Whoop versus Apple Watch video and people like to compare the two, people want to decide between the two, I see them as two different devices, two separate devices. It's why you see me wearing both. Like, if you guys have watched my videos, you've seen me wear both because I really do see them as two different devices. And I also have a collection of mechanical watches, so being able to switch my Apple Watch for a mechanical watch and still have the Whoop just makes it more useful for me. You know, I can wear a nice fancy dress watch, whatever, but then wear my Whoop and make sure that I'm tracking my information and not have to worry about my Apple Watch. Yeah, it's just it's a luxury, let's be honest. Like, I don't need it, I don't have to have it or anything, but it's a luxury that I like to have. When it comes to cost of the devices, there is a big difference between how you pay for them. So the Apple Watch is a one-off payment. You pay it off and you own the device. The Whoop is a yearly subscription. That means that once you stop paying the subscription for the Whoop, it essentially becomes useless, which is a shame. So if you don't like subscriptions, the Whoop just simply isn't for you. Whoop is clearly targeting a specific type of customer. The value just isn't in the device, but the software too. They want customers who are specifically interested in tracking their health in quite a bit of detail. Whether you're that type of person is totally up to you. Now, if I was forced to choose one, so I had to choose one device, Apple Watch or the Whoop, I couldn't have both, I would choose the Apple Watch. Like I said, I think the Apple Watch just generally is a lot more useful. You can do a lot more things, and the health tracking features and functionality on it, I think, are good enough. You know, I'm not some athlete, I'm not doing some crazy stuff. I'm just a normal guy going to the gym and doing sort of workout stuff maybe a few days a week, you know, 4 or 5 days a week, that's it. And I think for me, that's where the Apple Watch makes sense. And I think for most people it does as well. The Whoop really is for people who just want to keep a much more sort of keen and detailed eye on their health. I've seen obviously a lot of athletes wear it. Ronaldo is also invested in the company. It seems to be sort of targeting that sort of audience, people who just a lot more sort of workout and health focused. But yeah, I think the Apple Watch just makes more sense if you can only pick one device. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and subscribe for more.